Good morning. It's September 9, 2021. It's a SIG Node CI subgroup meeting. Welcome, everybody. Let's go through agenda. First item is, Mike, I added from your PR. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I saw this comment from Ligit yesterday. I believe he mentions that some of the tests get affected by these changes. However, we sent some runs, and then I checked that all the tests were actually matching. I think these are not included in the set that was run on this PR. I'm not entirely sure. But if this is the case, then we have to go back to the old labels.
So just looking at some of these things, like I think we're sort of in the unfortunate boat that I don't know how many of these were actually running in like a separate test suite. Like selecting, like just on FS group or something like that. At which point there's a question of like, do we even have to have a separate category of labels for this thing? Like, I'm not sure what the status of this one is, if it's GA or alpha or what's going on with it, but I feel like it's not possible for all of these to be alpha features.
Yeah.
Like,
so I'm looking at this comment, and it doesn't really. I don't really understand this comment. So I thought that we have this flag special and we have this disruptive flags, and that indicates whether they can run or they need to have special environment.
Yeah, so sorry, I think I understand Liget's comment. Feature means it's an alpha feature, which means it's turned off by default. So if these things are beta features, they should not have feature tags. I think that's the problem. So at least like one of the things I know scrolling through here is definitely a beta feature and not an alpha feature, which is why we probably shouldn't tag it with feature. Basically, like beta things should run in the default end-to-ends because they're on by default. And feature : will cause things to basically only get picked up in the alpha runs. So we may want to actually go through and like there might be a little bit more work here to be done in the sense of like we need to go and look at these and see like, okay, what is the maturity state of this thing? Because for example, if it's like completely graduated, I don't know. I know that we're just trying to go through this sort of transitional state, but like if it's graduated, I don't know why it would have a node feature tag on it, right? Like, wouldn't it just be a SIG node tagged test?
Yeah, I agree.
Running it all the time.
At least for API, I know that Kubernetes run tests with only GA feature enabled without beta. So there is a need to distinguish beta from GA. I wouldn't go as far as just
Is there? Well, I
removing.
mean, I've not seen that in other SIGs, I guess.
For API, for sure. I mean, for API, we're running Kubernetes without, like, with GA only, to make sure that no, like, that Kubernetes operational.
Conformance, but none of these are conformance tests.
Yeah, I understand, but like, philosophically, I think people will push for being able to distinguish beta from GA.
So do we have any means of that? Because I don't know of anybody in other SIGs that is distinguishing beta end-to-end tests from GA.
Hit a beta flag.
Feature, in my experience, means alpha feature. And then once it's beta, you're supposed to take, or I shouldn't say once it's beta, once it's turned on by default, because some beta features are turned off by default, then you get rid of the feature tag on the test, so they always run.
So I remember we had a node alpha feature, not beta feature.
I don't think I've ever seen a node beta feature tag.
Okay, but in any case, this comment from Liggett, it's about different thing. It's about like, it's not what he's writing here. So from this
what he's saying
description,
is, yeah, the feature thing that we're putting on there, they have a special meaning. It means that it's a non-default thing, like the flag is not on by default. So like if it's an alpha feature, like you have to go and turn that flag on. You have to put it in a special test run. It can't be run in a standard average test run. I don't know that any of these things currently are being run in the standard end-to-end suite. We should probably check that.
yeah, I'm not sure what default end-to-end runs means.
Like, so if you see there's a bunch of pre-submits and whatnot, like that's anything
that's
that's a
only
non-node
conformance.
thing. Like other people are running our tests in their jobs. If we do this, we'll cut them out of their jobs and reduce coverage. So, I mean, part of this, I think, is just the confusion of like, we haven't really, I think, had someone dedicated staring at this stuff in the past, going through and making sure, like, you know, all of the tests correspond to the correct, like, maturity phase of each feature. Like, there are things that are GA that I think still have tests. Like, they'll go GA, somebody will remove the feature gate, and they'll still have the tests tagged as like a beta feature or an alpha feature. I don't think we've been very rigorous about dealing with that in the past. So,
Okay.
so it may be worth going to a SIG Arch meeting and asking about this, like how we should deal with test notations for alpha through GA maturity. I've done this before, but not like to ask about the history
Maybe
of the node feature thing.
Not conformance, but not conformance, I believe.
Yeah, so it was specifically about like the node conformance stuff and the history of that and whatnot.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, but that's, I think, the right group of people to take it to. Like SIG testing wouldn't necessarily be the right group to take that to. They might not know, or there might not be consensus.
Do you believe we need to distinguish beta from GA?
I think that that's
should.
something we should ask SIG Arch about, because as far as I know, like as soon as a thing goes default on, you should basically test it like it's GA, other than the conformance tests.
So there should be way to. Okay, so GA means that there is conformance tag now, right? From your perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had like when I wrote this document, I meant to have feature being in beta as well, being a feature tag. Okay, I can beef up this document and go to a SIG Arch. It's a good idea. Mike, I think we will need to work with you to understand how to change the PR. I want to, yeah. We may want to go forward to that. Maybe we need to change the plan a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think like definitely adding the node feature tags was a great start. But I think that anything that we're adding feature to, we should make sure it's actually an alpha feature, because otherwise they're going to get excluded from test runs. And for what it's worth, if you're curious about like, what do you mean? Where will it get excluded from the test runs? You can go like poke around at test infra and look at the configs of various things that run end-to-end tests, and you'll see that feature is often skipped explicitly. So that's where this is coming from.
And Mike, remind me, please, the idea was to add this PR and then change test definition and then remove not feature, right? I know. Okay, I'll ask you, Mike. Mike, is there? Okay then. Okay, I have an action item here. Aditi, do you want to talk about performance?
Yeah. So if you open the issue, there is there are some kubelet performance related tests that are, I have checked what I have checked, they are not running anywhere, and like we want to deprecate them. So I want to know like the context around deprecating them, and like if we have any replacement available for them, and like in general what we want to do with that, or like that also needs that also we need to figure out.
Well, so the thing that this mentioned that those tests were deprecated in favor of, I mean, I don't know anything about the history of these tests, but the node perf dashboard is gone. Like, I removed it from Kate's infra. So, like, it hasn't been running for at least like a year or two.
I saw Sarige recently added some performance dashboard, and like there is a link on the top of the meeting doc as well. But that I found to be sort of more of a scale testing, not exactly resource utilization.
Yeah, so this perf dashboard is different. This is cluster scalability. It does include some kubelet scalability stats, and we did pull in kubelet, I think, memory and CPU utilization recently. So like that's new as of I think like 120, or it's been backported back I think all the way to 120. But yeah, so there used to also be a node dash perf dash dot kates.io, and the whatever data source was feeding it was not running. It had been dead for some time, and I removed the manifest to undeploy it from kates.io.
Yeah, it's the dashboard that mentioned.
Yeah,
here.
that one is dead.
Yeah. So if we, yeah, this is saying let's remove a resource usage test because we have dashboard, but we don't have dashboard any longer.
But I guess we do now have like, well, I don't know about Docker. We definitely now have kubelet CPU and memory getting
Yes.
checked in the scalability test. So I think we can probably just close this. Like, this is a super old issue. 2016, 5 years old. Things have changed.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to work on that, or you just found
Yeah,
stumble across?
actually, I like, for example, like how like the recent performance dashboard that we have added, like can we able to run it locally or like in our dev environment or somewhere? Because these tests are possible to run locally also, and I don't know how like this dashboard works.
Yeah, I think this is from 100 nodes. So the provisions 100 nodes and run some validation. I don't think it's a very elaborate performance test. I think it's just scheduling some pods. So no, I don't think you can run it locally.
So,
Are you interested
do we
in?
have like,
Yeah.
no, so yeah, if you look at the there is a doc in I have linked the doc as well.
Mhm.
This docs points to those tests that we are deprecating. So like, above, yeah, like the kubelet perf.go,
Yeah.
those are the tests. Yeah.
Do we have them running anywhere?
No, they are not running anywhere, but it can be run locally rather than like the dashboard, like the scale dashboard.
Given that they're not running anywhere, like, is there any reason to? And they're the only thing that we can run locally. Like, I guess, what is the urgency here? Like, do we need to deprecate these? I'm not sure why we're spending time on this super old issue. Like, I guess my question is, like, is this a priority?
No, actually, I was looking some way to determine the like node performance. So I was looking on the like exactly the how node perf tests work, and like what is the coverage and all the things. So I landed here. That's it.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. I don't care about this issue and like what exactly to deprecate. I'm curious what we
It
have.
is deprecated because
performance-wise.
it was quite slow. I've seen some offline issues. It was a slow test, like so.
Well,
and
that makes sense to me because you typically, at least like in my experience, trying to profile CPU utilization of the kubelet, like you can't just run a test for 5 minutes. Like you want at least a 30-minute CPU sample. So there's no way to make a performance test fast, just because you won't get a very accurate picture of like what actual performance under load looks like. I'm looking at this documentation and it is like was written pre 2016 and has been migrated like 3 or 4 times. So all of this I think is quite old. I think we can probably just let it chill if we want to. I guess I'm excited that I discovered that this exists now because I've never tried running these tests before. But
I remember recently we've been migrating some performance tests from. Actually, we have them running. Let me show you the test grid. So we have them
we
here.
run. We also run.
But it's
some
all red.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, this one also I have seen. Like these are almost same test, but they are kind of Node E2E, and the previous one kind of K8s E2E. Like it just spins up a node, and that one the whole clusters. Yeah.
It's maybe even more important to make those screen than.
Yeah, that I feeling some fake tests are here also feeling. I mean, this job also is failing from quite long.
And in test info, we even has this definition of. Anyway, and did you check
Okay,
that?
so
Yeah, I'm curious why this test wouldn't run. Like they have feature tag, but then and serial and slow. Like there's 2 tags. Like I mean, I believe you run serial slow at some point, right?
that's just in the SIG describe. So I guess where the individual tests are declared, they have feature regular resource tracking on them. So because they also have that feature on them, like feature serial and slow is going to exclude them from basically everything, except apparently this job.
So there's different tests.
basically that feature tag was added just to exclude those tests from running.
They're running here. And they're green.
No, if you oh yeah, I doubt that this one is.
There you go.
No, this
I
one
know
is,
what
I
they
think,
do, but they're clearly running for 10 minutes.
This one is not. This one is the node performance.
I think that's
test.
a different
That
test.
one, yeah, that's a different test. Yeah.
Oh, does it have feature?
Yeah, it doesn't have that feature tag, so I think it's a different
Oh,
test. I think that's just getting excluded. I mean, we can see. You could search. I guess the problem with like Governator is that it only shows you failures. It doesn't show you stuff that's running.
yeah.
Yeah, that is the same test as the node performance test.
But we run slow tests. And here we run slow tests. So you say we exclude, and we run feature tests. So there is a feature.
We skip slow one. So I think those the feature memory manager tests, for example, like I'm not sure why those ones are getting pulled in. I think it's just because they have serial on them. for at least for the serial test, we don't exclude anything that's slow or
feature or not feature.
yeah, I mean, you can go and look at that job. If you see there's like a proud job config URL at the very top and the gray thing, no, above the like bold title, it's in the test grid thing. It's very sketchy. You can't click it. Down, no.
Yeah.
Like right above the title in bold text. No, down. Okay, left. Yeah, you could go to that.
Oh, okay.
I know it's like hidden, but it's
Yeah, I typically just search.
And so you could look for where that job is defined, which I think is the, yeah. So you can see which things are skipped and which ones are not. So we skip a bunch of stuff. We focus serial. We don't skip slow, but I don't know what all the things we skip there are. We definitely skip the eviction tests. So I'm not sure what's causing those things to get skipped.
Yeah. I don't know either. Maybe
there could also secretly be some like top level config that's skipping them that we're pulling in, because I've seen that on other tests.
this puzzles me every time. It's like
Yeah.
a maze.
It really is. SIG testing needs help.
Okay, so what's the action item we can get from here? So I would like to understand why we are not running this test. Which test? This one.
Fixing the existing node performance.
And this performance test that I hear that are failing all the time, will they give us some information? Did you look at what kind of performance they measure? You're muted, I think.
Sorry. It is also measuring CPU and memory utilization, like over 10 pods and 30 pods and something, but I haven't checked the results yet.
So maybe we can understand whether we need this test or we need to like just make this performance test screen. Maybe alternative. Clearly, we don't want to. I mean, I don't think we want to restore this node perf dashboard that we used to have.
I haven't looked at like any time. I never get a chance to see it.
Okay, and if we don't need this test, we can just remove them then. Okay. Do you want to keep looking into that, Aditi?
Yeah, I'll look.
Thank you. Okay, Imran, you next.
Hi everyone. So yeah, I wanted to join a couple of times, but unfortunately I couldn't. It's quite late here. So I just want to know what are the further steps for the log contention tests. Last time we talked about we wanted to remove them from having their own separate tab in the test grid dashboard. So we moved it to the serial test suite. The serial test failed because it does not have those flags as part of the like the test suite. So I created a PR to add those flags to the serial test suite. Now the question here is that if we add those flags, it will run all the serial tests, serial suite, tests in them with those flags. So do we want that or not? That was the question. And I wanted to test that, say by running all the serial tests locally or somewhere else with those flags to see if it's having any effect or not. But I wasn't sure how to do that. I asked a question around that as well, that if I create a PR for the test and the job config, I want to use its corresponding PR in the test infra repo and not what's in the master. Can I do that?
So you need to remind what the flag you're talking about, because I remember something vaguely.
These are the lock contention tests, like the two flags, lock file and exit on lock contention. So we want them to be moved from kubelet flags to part of the kubelet configuration. And one of the prerequisites for doing that is to add end-to-end tests for these.
Okay. Yeah, so those are like, I remember this lock contention tests were run as part of serial and they failing as part of serial and they were running a separate tab as well, right? Or something like that.
So they were running as a separate tab before, but then we merged it, and Ilana found out that this was also being picked up by serial test suite, which where it was failing. So the end-to-end test was reverted back. I re-reverted it based on the call, based on the discussion that we had last time, that we need to put it as part of serial test suite and not run it as a separate tab. So I added into the serial test suite, but since the serial test suites don't have those flags, I added those flags. So the question now comes, all the tests in the serial test suite will run with those flags, exit on lock contention and lock file path.
Yeah, I don't think we want that.
Yeah, it's non-standard, I think.
Yes. So how do we suppose we make it part of the serial test suite then?
I guess then we don't. I think I didn't realize that moving into serial will require new flags on serial tests.
I think we should move those flags into kubeconfig, the kubelet config, and then we can put them back in serial.
Well, I mean, in any case, we would still need to, like, I think, restart kubelets and whatnot. I think we may be getting stuck a little bit in the weeds. So we added these tests, and I can't remember exactly what was causing them to fail, but I reverted them because they were causing some existing test suite to fail. And now we're trying to bring them back.
Yeah, it was being picked up by serial test suite, and we couldn't figure out at that point of time why it was being picked up by the serial test suite, because it does not have that label on them. So I added it as part of the serial test.
But we don't want it to be a serial test.
Yes, earlier, if you see the old PR, which was reverted, you can see that they were not part of the serial test suite. So in a separate tab, in a single.
Oh wait, can you go back, Sergey, so I can.
This issue?
Yeah, just so I can read which. Oh yeah, they weren't getting picked up by serial. They were getting picked up by kubelet features, which was causing like our blocking test suite to fail. So there was no issue with. So we were. I think we suggested maybe like put them in serial instead of having them in their own separate thing, assuming that they didn't like need to run separately because they had their own separate thing. And now we have discovered that in fact we need to launch the kubelet with special flags. So that is why they were off in their own separate thing. So it's fine to have them off in their own separate thing, but they need to be excluded from those tests.
So which which flags I need to add in order to not get picked up by this kubelet feature suite of tests?
Well, I think you'd have to probably add a thing to exclude them from those things. The other thing too is we're adding a node feature thing, and we're trying to get rid of node feature. So I don't think we want that. I'm curious what the graduation state of this is. Like, is this lot contention thing? Is this a GA thing?
No, it's not GA, but there was a choice of like either deprecate it or you provide someone picks it up, provides an end-to-end test so that we can move it to the kubelet configuration.
I see. I would suggest then that rather than using a node feature thing, you put a feature thing on there, and that you exclude that particular thing from the node feature suite until you can figure out, or we know why it's failing there. It's because the command line flags weren't being passed, right? So.
Okay, so I removed the.
Or maybe you want to put it as a node special feature or something like that, so they don't get picked up by that suite, because they require a different deployment.
Okay, but like, since we want to remove this node feature and this extra tags, adding another node special feature tag only causes extra stuff.
Well, the point of like having that was to be able to exclude stuff from the standard feature suite without having to like go and update the test manifest every time. I don't know what we currently exclude from the feature suite, but we might be able to go and look at that and just pick. I think kubelet features is that one. What does that one skip, Sergey? Flaky and serial. So that's why we were like, oh, we could just stick it in the serial suite and it'll get skipped. Not realizing that the reason it was failing was because it was missing that command line thing. So that makes sense.
I mean, it will miss it in any.
Oh, just put
case.
Feature on it, and then it will skip it because it won't have node feature.
Yeah, but then it will be picked up by features, right?
We don't pick up anything based on the feature selector, though.
Is this?
Like everything right now is picked up
it's
by
a
a
node
node
feature.
feature.
Okay.
So that'll skip
But then
it.
we'll change it, right? With the mic work.
Well, maybe that'll just be another one for him to edit. Okay, so I'll put that recommendation on that PR.
Or we just go with separate tab and like just put a special there.
It already has a separate tab. The issue is making sure that it doesn't infect other tests and start failing.
I think
so we know now why it was
separate
failing.
tab. Oh, what contention?
Yeah, it has one already. Now that one's not running any tests, but like the job exists. So.
Yeah, but we wanted
need to update
get rid
that
of it.
job.
Imran, do you remember? Did you want to remove this tab, or we wanted to?
We were asking if we could possibly fold it into the serial, but we can't because of the different command line flags.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're keeping that and adding as many flags as possible to remove them from all other tabs.
Okay, so the gist of it is that I remove the serial tag from the test, and instead of node feature, I make it as feature or something, so that it does not get picked up by any other test suite.
Yeah. So another option, Ilana, would be to add special here, like a skip special, because special supposed to be special, and then it will go to separate tab.
Yeah, except that I don't know do we have a standardization for that right now? Like maybe.
I mean, we call it not
special
skip feature.
No special feature. Yeah.
I think we have few mentions and then special.
So if I add node special feature as a tag, then whatever that was shown in the search results, those tests will be picked up, right? Along with the log contention tests.
So ultimately, you need to, like, first we need to make sure that we run it here, like return back here. I'm not sure why this tab doesn't run them any longer. And second,
Oh, it doesn't run them because we reverted it. So the test does not exist.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we just need to have like add some flags to make sure that they're not running by any of them, and maybe we don't have enough flags to express it, so we need to change the job definition. Specifically for node feature, maybe we can add like exclude node special feature or special tag, and this will solve it.
Looking at the chat. Matthias, so there's a question. For the feature notation, do we name it according to the name of the feature gate? I think that was the intent. I don't know if people have been good about that, though. So I don't know if in all cases it like 100% corresponds to that. We could try to enforce
Should we try
that.
to correct it then?
Yeah, maybe that's something we can think about doing. Because then at least we can go through the list of feature gates. I think there is some historical issue with the fact that not everything was actually tracked with a feature gate. And we had some things that I think were like not fully graduated necessarily, that were being sort of haphazardly tracked. And I think there may also be some features that didn't have a feature gate, but were still tracked with those in the test. So like, really, it's just a lot of cleanup and inventory that we need to do. Like go and like dump all of the tests and then like figure out like, you know, what belongs to what. Like there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of spelunking and like, you know, digital archive work to be done there. It's like being a librarian of SIG Node.
I have another question. Which set of test suites are run for kubelet configuration?
What do you mean?
So since the task is, I don't want them, so eventually we want to move them from as kubelet flags to kubelet configuration, there would be a need for a end-to-end test so that these flags are added to
I
the
see.
kubelet
So
configuration?
once you, if you go through there are some docs on how to make an API change for a configuration. If you go and add that to the configuration, I wouldn't necessarily remove the flag right off the bat. I think that the flags need to be deprecated before they can be removed. I saw somebody asking for a review of something where flags got removed, which we shouldn't do. There needs to be some sort of deprecation period. But typically for most of the flags, we will just add them to the kubelet config so they exist there in parallel. And those can be set then like in the kubelet config file when you specify like config in YAML form, then you can use that to specify. You don't just have to use the command line flag.
No, so I have created a PR for that.
Okay.
So what I wanted was, would there be a need for an end-to-end test in which currently the way I am, the way
there
we
are
have a test
tests
right
for
now?
this. I don't know if they're end-to-end. I think they're just unit tests. But if you
okay.
change any of that stuff, you should definitely update the tests.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so I do have a PR for that as well, but we first want to get this test, this end-to-end test merged so that that PR can be reviewed later.
Okay, so I added action item here. So I think I like this idea more and more to remove special tag from feature, from like in this tab, just make sure that it doesn't pick up special tag test, and then your test will only appear in this tab. Right, where is it? Log contention.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Cool. Okay. Do you want to discuss time before we go to dashboards?
Yeah, I mostly just wanted to ask. We've been meeting at this time a few times. We were hoping to get more contributors from Asia, like specifically China and India. That doesn't seem to be happening in this alternate time. So, like, we tend to get the same group of people on both this time and the other time call. So, like, is this working?
I have a question. So one, what was the earlier time? And second, what is the time for the weekly meetings?
So the weekly one starts 2 hours later than this on Wednesdays.
2 hours later than this? Okay. And what was the alternate time for the monthly one?
This is the alternate time.
No, sorry, not the alternate, the previous time.
So there was no previous time. They were just all at the same time as the other meeting.
Okay.
And so we added this one in the hopes to get more contributors attending. And for the most part, we seem to have basically the same group attending both calls. So, like, is this not a time that works for people? We're certainly not getting folks attending from China, which I think was one of our hopes of moving this meeting.
Yeah. So just to rehash, we have this SIG Node main SIG Node meeting with like feature discussions mostly Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Pacific, so it's 2 hours later than this one. And then this one we have second Tuesdays we have this time, and all other weeks we have 10, oh, like Wednesday 10 p.m. Did both times
Yeah.
work for you, or just this one?
This time is a lot better than the previous one for me. So like, it's working for me. But like, I should not be the lone one joining at this time. So like, I'm
No, I mean,
okay with like.
We have at least one person who wants this time.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, I sorry, I don't want to provide a lot of inputs because I don't attend a lot of calls, nor have I been active. But just in general, the 10 p.m. Sorry, the alternate time that we had earlier seems quite late for Indian folks. This time does work. I'm not sure if that would be the case for the weekly calls as well.
Yeah, I don't think that we can move the call to this time all the time. I have a conflict in this slot, so I skip another meeting in order to attend. So that's mostly why I was asking, because if this time is generally less attended than the other time, and we're not necessarily getting a different group of people attending, then I think it adds confusion and doesn't necessarily make sense. I wonder if, like, would it help if I added a Slack bot reminder, like 48 hours in advance, that we had the alternate time meeting?
A lot of people don't know that this meeting is happening, I think.
Yeah, so like, would it help if I added a reminder in SIG Node, because it's only once a month?
I guess yes, yeah. And like, you have to keep track that, like, it is not in my calendar, but I keep track of second Thursdays.
My only worry is I feel like Slackbot is going to screw it up, because like I might have to set them manually, because the second Tuesday of the month does not always fall before the second Thursday. So I can't just like assume like, oh, if I add the reminder on the second Tuesday, it'll actually work. Okay. I will add a reminder on Slack given the number of +1s in the chat, and maybe that will help with attendance. And I was gonna say also, like, we advertised this meeting in our KubeCon talk, so I guess we have to have them at least through November. Otherwise, people will be very sad when we tell them to show up and then it doesn't exist.
We can advertise during SIG Node meeting, regular SIG Node meeting, and tell this week is like 8 a.m. That week is 10 p.m. or 10 a.m.
I'll set up a reminder on the Tuesday before the next one, and we'll see if we get. I'll take an action to do that.
Thank you. Okay. Surprisingly long time we spent on agenda today. which is very good. I like when agenda is full. Okay, triage. Okay, we have looks legit. Oh.
The tests are failing.
Yeah, but it's not the bug, it's failing test, right?
I have a question regarding approvals. Now that Elana and Sergey have approvals in some parts of what we touch, is it better or is it still slow to get approvals?
Well, I got approver and then I proceeded to go on vacation for the rest of August. And I'm now kind of in and out of the office for the next 2 weeks. And also it's kept freeze. So I think we'll find out after we stop having deadlines and vacation, because I have not been approving very many things.
Yeah.
But not because I don't want to, just because I have other stuff going on.
Yeah, this was my feeling. I didn't want to blame anyone. It's just I was just asking kindly.
I think
mean,
it's
it's good
definitely
to
working.
know.
Yeah, I already approved a couple PRs, I think, which were not
Sergey
like
apple,
not major.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like during the first 2 weeks it was like yes, let's approve, and then yeah, it slowed down. But probably it was just during the vacation because like Sergey was on vacation, you were on vacation several weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's a
understand.
combination of a bunch of things too. Like when we get between releases as well, I think a lot of people, myself included, really want some time off because especially like last release, the crunch going into like end of the release and all of the tests burned down and whatnot, and then it's just like finally I can take a break. Because that was, especially with all of the bugs and regressions that came out of 122 and the pod lifecycle refactor, like that was brutal. So I was glad to take some time off. I think that like we're definitely seeing that we're bandwidth constrained, right? Like we still don't have a lot of people. When we have the people that we do have now with approver on vacation, like we still feel the pain. So we need more people. That's I think really the we don't want single points of failure.
Yeah, and I realized that now, like being approver is a little bit harsh because you can't just like, oh, this approver's job to look at the stats. You already reviewed them, so it's yeah. Right now, it's after vacation, trying to catch up, and in Google there is a perf going on, which also consumes a lot of time. So dual stack IPv6. We're touching a little bit of tests. Actually, a lot of tests. So at first I wanted to move it to archive it, but like now I think we may want to take a look.
Yeah, we might. Well, it's still a work in progress too.
Okay. Yeah, waiting on another, but I don't want to archive it necessarily. But I probably will archive it from here. Okay.
I think this is related. Oh no, this is different. I was like, is this related to the regression in 122? It might be. But it's claimed to be fixing something else.
Yeah.
There's a critical urgent regression with static pods going into an error state in 122.
Yeah, it's not a this group business. I don't think so. How many tests there are? Yeah, I think it like review and feature you can review as a test. It's minimal change here. So I would archive it from here, leaving it to our product. Some unit test. So, scheduler. Oh, okay. Is it all why it's assigned to us? I will approve for this one. Assigned. Okay. Okay, Imran, this is yours. Oh, Imran dropped. Yeah, I reviewed it before, so I can review it again. Because I approved original, HTML the original PR. Ilona, are you interested to take a look? Or anybody else?
Oh, I already. I think I already reviewed
this
that
one we need to change now because we want to put the special.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Special
I just put a review on this one, so I think it's already reviewed and it's probably waiting on author.
Yeah.
I mean, we needed somebody for assignee section, so we wouldn't look at it every time. Okay, and this is what Mike is looking at, but Mike cannot be assigned because he's not a member of Kubernetes, right? Okay.
Really?
We
Not
only
yet?
have 3.
Mike, come on. I know he left already.
No, Mike is here.
I'm here. Yes.
Anybody wants to sponsor Mike? I'm totally sponsoring him, but and he has a few PRs already merged.
Oh,
course.
sorry, is this for Kubernetes membership?
Yeah.
Yes.
I already offered to do that a while back. I would be happy to.
Yeah. I have
Okay.
a couple of PRs. I wanted to submit the feature first, the feature tags first, but if you think that's okay, then I'll request
Send me
membership.
your list and I'll take a look and I'll let you know. But I would certainly be happy. to
Sure,
sponsor.
thanks.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
it's so much easier for us if we work with members anyway. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely.
So we only have 2 minutes for bugs triage. Do you want to prioritize bugs triage for next time, for next week?
Yeah, let's punt to next week because I've got a bunch of PRR reviews and CAP approvals to finish up anyways today. It's gonna be a long day.
Everybody, bye.
Okay,
Thanks,
good luck.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.